So I'm here with Sahar. Sahar is one of the top real estate agents in Houston, Texas. And one of the things that we talk about a lot is how can buyers cancel their buyer broker agreement if they don't like their agent? Whenever I get a panicked call from someone who signed, like maybe they clicked a button online and then they ended up with an agreement with someone they don't like, I'm always calling Sahar saying, Sahar, what should they do? So Sahar, if someone signed one of these agreements, the agent didn't go through it, they don't trust the agent, they don't feel like they're working from them, they really don't want to work with them, do they need to wait until the time period of the agreement ends?
Not
Or what would you do?
Not at all. First, I will write an official email to the agent themselves and asking them to terminate all the relationship with them. And a decent agent would not want a buyer to work with him if he's not pleased. So there
So,
is form
question.
to terminate. Yeah.
Okay, because everyone's going to want to know this. In the email, should they say, hey, Bob, I want to cancel, I want to terminate my agreement and have a reason? Or should they just say, hey, based on our experience of working together, I would like to cancel, I would like to terminate my agreement effective immediately. Please confirm.
Absolutely. Keep it simple and general. And then if they ask for reasons, you can, share why you want to cancel because they didn't do their job. You're not satisfied with the service that you're receiving. Simple and straightforward. And the second thing I would say, if that did not work, every agent, or let's just say most of the agents have brokers, unless they are their own broker, reach out to the broker in charge because the agreement is between the client and the broker. Reach out to the broker and get that terminated. And it's simple.
So question. So they're writing this initial email, and I know that I would be going, well, wait, how long should I wait for an agent to respond? Should I put in that email, dear Bob, based on our experience working together, I want to terminate our buyer's broker agreement. Please confirm within the next 48 hours. So we have a timeline.
24 to 48 hours. If they don't respond within your timeline reference, then reach out to the broker. I always say reach out to the broker because there's forms you can just terminate it from the broker. It doesn't have to be involved with the agents, just in case the agent was on vacation.
Okay, so the buyer could then take that email that they sent to the agent, forward it to the broker. They could figure out who the broker is by going online and looking at, the name of the firm and like you just Google broker and then the name of the firm in this city, and they could email it to them. Now, what if the broker doesn't respond? Should they call them? Should they go to the state? What would be your next step if this person's still getting ghosted?
So the person, if they're getting ghosted, most of the time you're not reaching to the appropriate people because a decent brokerage has people respond. Maybe you're just sending it to the wrong email address, but maximum, if they don't, yes, you can reach out to the stage, but try all venues. Usually in your buyer broker agreement or anything you sign, you're going to see the contact for the broker himself, phone numbers, emails. Make sure you review those. When we are signing anything, we need to read those documents. We need to read, in details, what are the terms of that contract. And the same thing at the end, if you're not happy, you go back to that same broker agreement and you'll see the broker information, contact them and make sure you get in touch on a phone call if you can't go in person or the email you didn't see a response.
Okay. And, a lot of people go, oh, I should just text this. And I go, don't text it because that's not, if they say, okay, but then you go buy a house with another person, they could say they never really did that and they meant okay to something else. So you really want this paper trail. Is there a special magical form that people have to fill to get out in Texas?
In Texas, we do have one. So the email might be official, but I would recommend them getting the termination from the broker. Like it's called buyer tenant termination with the broker, and get that signed. And that once that is signed that midnight, your relationship is done with that agent and that broker. So I'm not sure in other states, research, but in Texas, we do have a form. And just to lock all ends, make sure you terminate that.
So because, and I think a lot of people don't recognize this, but if, for instance, let's say that their agent was just terrible, it happens. And they're like, well, I don't want to work with them. I signed this agreement, but I'm just going to start working with this person. What happens if they start working with a new agent, but they haven't terminated this agreement?
So what happens on the buyer, if you read the terms on the buyer agreement, it says, hey, if I'm serving you, it can come back and hunt you. I'm serving you, I'm helping you buy a house, and you owe me a certain percentage of commission. And they go buy another the house with another agent. If the agent wants, he can come back and say, hey, I'm the procuring cause, so I'm going to charge you commission. So they're going to come after you to get the commission. So make sure you don't leave loose ends before starting a relationship. Make sure you end the other relationship. That's my advice to all buyers.
Okay. So generally, like if someone, let's say someone was like, Sahar, we don't vibe, and you get that email, how would you respond?
I
Would you
mean,
be like,
I
let me
would,
be your best friend?
yeah, I would ask them what happened, because I want to do better for the next client if there is something going on there. But at the end of the day, I don't want to work with anybody that doesn't want to work with me. That's just me. I want to work with people that really value my expertise and value what I bring to the table. So if they're not happy for whatever reason, I wish them the best of luck on their journey. And I'll tell them if anything changes, I'll be here for you. There is no hurt feelings.
And I think that's a great way. And I think what I see more of is I'll see truly terrible agents where they're like, you can't cancel this, it's impossible, you're going to have to wait. So I think it's important for buyers to know, like, hey, that's not accurate. But of course, make sure you're reading the terms of these agreements, because you and I were just talking about how some agents have started putting in a termination fee. Is that
Absolutely.
correct?
Absolutely. Some people are starting to put that and to protect themselves. And, there's a lot of time that takes sometimes years for a buyer to buy a house. So all that time spent, they're trying to protect yourself. And I think to understand or talk about it more, you need to see, hey, how much did that agent invest in you? Is he worth that termination fee or not? And always try to, I don't want to say fight it, but try to just be reasonable. We all are here trying to make a living. So if they've put an effort and they have a termination fee, maybe that's worth their time. If you don't see it's worth their time, you can go talk to them or their broker and try to reach a resolution that everybody is happy.
Yeah, and we talked about in an earlier video, three things you would look for in a buyer's agent, and one of them was experience. Because the one thing I think about when I think about a termination fee is I go, if someone hasn't sold a house in a year and they're trying to charge 500 bucks if I terminate, like, why would I ever sign that to begin with?
Absolutely.
It
Absolutely.
doesn't
What
make a
their
lot of sense.
value, usually, even in real estate, we value our time depending on how much we have produced, and then we divide that by 12 and then divide it by 4, and then how much time we work in the week. And that's how we know how much time our time is worth. Like a lawyer, you go to a lawyer, some people charge you 300 for a consult, some people charge you 500. Every agent will have their own value if they really know what they're doing. So if they have that termination, make sure to research them, see, do they match what production they have, if they're putting a termination, because you might see it, you might start seeing it more often. I've never done it, but you might start seeing it more often.
Oh, so I've seen it. So the only time I've actually seen it is when people really dislike the agent. I'm not kidding. They're like, they come to me and they're like, I'm trapped in this horrible relationship. I haven't seen it in Texas yet. So they're trapped in this horrible relationship. And I look at the agent and they do no business, but there's this big termination fee. And I'm like, this person's just a con. And that's what I was going to say. Like, I know you don't charge a termination fee, and it's because you do so much work up front before they even sign that agreement that the buyer has a good idea if they're actually going to want to work with you.
100% goes back to the buyer consult. If they're not reading that buyer, not explaining to you that buyer rep, that's a red flag. If they're not telling you, hey, what are you signing? That's a red flag. So you need to make sure you do the buyer consult in person, on Zoom, on the phone, however you want to do it, whatever style. Go through all the timelines, the goals, and then all your responsibility and the agent's commitment to you. And that buyer rep agreement is very important, that you guys have a understanding about it before you even sign it.
Right. So, I mean, here's what I'm getting from this video, and I hope this is the takeaway people are getting. Guys, if you already signed one of these agreements, you're not doomed. There are procedures to get out, because the last thing anyone wants is for you to be trapped with a terrible agent, but the bigger point is make sure you're actually spending time with the agent and you're interviewing them and they're talking with you about this agreement before you ever sign it, because then you're not going to end up having to go through the termination process.
100%. And ask questions. Ask all the questions. If you feel uncomfortable, take the time to get comfortable with that person. You want to work with somebody that you trust and they trust you. It's a two-way street. So they need to trust you. You need to trust them for that to be a win-win situation for both of you.
100%. Okay, well, look, Sahar, I know you are very busy, and I appreciate you taking the time to come on. Thank you for explaining that, because I'm getting the calls where people are feeling trapped. So I'm glad you were able to offer them some hope. So appreciate you always. People, Sahar is one of the top real estate agents in Houston. Reach out to her. She can really help you get home. Thank you, Sahar.
You're welcome.